So, I recently did a video on the best boots for wide feet in 2024, and that prompted a lot of comments from a lot of people who wanted the same list but for narrow feet. And I can do that, especially because I myself have slightly slim to narrow feet. So these are the top 5 best football boots if you have slim feet in 2024, in my opinion at least. And we can start out with the Lotto Solista 200, which is probably best described as a knitted ballerina shoe. Because, I mean, just look at it. If this doesn't scream elegant, tiptoey dribbling, frustrating defense, I don't know what does. Especially not in all black. But anyways, what you get here is a relatively sculpted, streamlined fit with a really low pointy toe box, which means that from a fit point of view, the boot sits relatively close around your foot, especially also because on the inside, you have this, I wouldn't necessarily call it thick, but it's a rather generous amount of this plush, really soft foam, meaning that there's less space inside of the boot that you would think just looking at it. And because the heel area is also really narrow, it just sits closely around your foot. That's not a problem though, because the foam is soft and so is the upper, so it molds really nice around your foot, and just in general, it is super comfortable. It's also not the best when it comes to lockdown and stuff on the market, but if you are looking for a boot that gives you this super soft, comfortable sock-like sensation with a rather close, snug fit, for the money, it's actually a pretty solid option. And it looks... And then in 4th place, we have a little bit, I would say, of a surprise entry, because in the last couple of years, the Preds, especially the accuracy, was really wide fitting. But for this model, it actually fits my relatively slim foot really well. And I think that's for 2, maybe 3 reasons. The first one is that you have a midfoot that tapers a little bit just around here. And then the second thing is that on this part of the outside, the boot falls a little bit inwards, meaning that when you start to pull your laces tight, you kind of drag that in, and you also start to drag in this lower part of the outside of the midfoot. And that means that you can almost create this pinch maneuver just around the area where the foot, at least my foot, is the narrowest, and kind of just hug it in effectively. And of course, the final thing is that you have this free-floating U-throw tongue, meaning that basically you can adjust the laces as you want, and especially tighten it where you need that little bit extra coming close to the foot. So maybe a bit of a surprise, but actually fits the foot really well. The Elite FT with the tongue, I think that the opening here is too big to really give me a snug enough fit. And the laceless one is okay, but you don't get the adjustability. So this one is the answer. Anyways, we shouldn't forget one of the OG narrow-fitting boots, the Nike Mercurial. Obviously, I have the Vapor 16 here, but everything I say will also apply to the Superfly, because it's the same boot just with a higher soft collar. But anyways, what it seems like you've done here is to trend a little bit more back towards that OG, slightly more narrow-fitting Mercurial shape. And especially compared to the 12, 13, 14, and especially the 15 that I feel was a little bit more wider, slightly more generally appealing, it seems that Nike have taken that shape and then just pinched it right around here to make it a little bit more sculpted and snug, especially in the midfoot. And for someone like myself that has a slightly more narrow foot, that also enjoys this slightly more, the boot following that sculpted natural curvature of the foot, it's a really nice feeling, especially also because you still have that knitted tongue that you can use to stretch out and open up, adjust for most foot shapes, but you also have a heel that sits relatively close around your foot and locks it in well. So to have that really soft grip knit upper that makes it feel like a sock, but still get that really trademark, OG, snug, tight Mercurial feel that makes you feel close to the ball, is a really welcome change of direction, I feel. And for me, the Mercurial shape is kind of back with this one. And that's good. Because this wasn't more like a flat sausage. However, the material doesn't have a U-throw tongue, meaning that you can't adjust the laces as much, at least as you can on the boot in second place, the Sokito Scudetta, which has the U-throw tongue, so that's nice. But first things first, yes, this does give heavy 2014 F50 Adizero vibes, which in my book is great because that boot fit my foot like a glove. And this is no different. So as you can see here, you have a relatively wide forefoot. That's not a problem, I'll get to that later. But also the midfoot, again, just like the other boots, is on the more narrow side. It tapers a little bit, and especially around this pivotal point right up here, it is really like, it's just nice and close. And also because you get an extra deep lace hole here, you can do the runner's loop and just really pinch the boot in to sit very close around that more narrow part of your foot. So really good. And also you have this really low pointy shape of the boot that means it just sits close to your foot all over, even in the heel that just has this nice pinch around, drags the boot in as well. And yeah, that does sound really claustrophobic, and it is a snug fit, I'm not gonna lie. But the good thing is that, especially because of the BioTouch vamp here, that is just so ridiculously soft, has a little bit of like nice plush foam on the inside, it feels really comfortable. Yes, snug and close and personal, but still comfortable. And that for me, as a narrow-footed person, is what I'm looking for. So, you know, and 200 euros, don't sleep on them, because nah, Mike. Do not move an inch. Do not breathe. Do not. No. Nah, Mike. But before we squeeze into number one. Okay, you got it, but it just wasn't funny. Roger that. Anyways, honorable mentions. Puma Ultra Ultimate, which is nice, snug, and sculpted, and pretty decent. I have a little bit too much width and space down here, and the opening for me is a little bit too loose to go on the list, but it's a solid option. Legend 10 Elite, also a bit of a weird entry, but it just feels like this year's model is just more narrow-fitting than a Chempo typically is. And then there's this, the Adidas F50 Messi Elite, which was also on the list for best wide-fitting boots. I know that's weird, but because of the burrito-style tongue and a relatively long lacing here, you can really tuck it in around that part of the midfoot. And maybe there's a little bit too much width overall to make it like a true narrow-fitting king, but you know, it's not bad. I enjoy wearing it. And finally, this one, which was also on the No, God, please, no! No! It happened. But anyways, this was also on one of the best boots for wide feet. So that's weird, Jay, what are you talking about? But U-throw tongue, very deep lacing, and a rather snug fitting heel here. It hugs the foot really nicely. And it also has one of the best fits shape-wise that I can think of. So while it's not the best option when it comes to this really super skin-tight fit, I still enjoy wearing it. And I think you would too. And now I have to go and fix that before we get to number one, but hey. And you probably guessed it. What is, in my book at least, the definition of a perfect boot for narrow and slim feet? The Mizuno Morelia Neo 4 Beta Japan and or Elites, because they're both great to be fair. And the funny thing about this one, and that's the beauty of Mizuno, is that you can squeeze into this with a wide-ish foot and still enjoy yourself if you're okay with a snug fit. But as a narrow-footed person, player, it's absolutely magnificent. So the thing is that you have this really beautiful curve that just falls in on top of the foot. Even though you don't have a U-throw tongue here, you can just get that very, very tight sensation around your midfoot. The heel is phenomenal because it starts relatively wide, meaning that it's comfortable, and then it just tapers. It becomes more and more narrow leading up, and it pinches your foot really well, dragging that relatively small opening in around your foot. So just like encompasses that part of your foot really well, especially also on the inside here, where it just sits close and personal. And then of course you have this wonderful K-leather forefoot with a good toe height that just makes your foot feel at home and held in place. And it's just, to me, it's besides the point, but it's one of the most complete football boots on the market out there. Obviously, the Japan is expensive, but phenomenal. Truly, it doesn't get better than this, quality or fit-wise for now. But to be honest, all of these 5 are great for players with narrow and slim feet, at least if you like your boots to be more tight-fitting, to sit close around your foot and give you like the structure and the support you need. Because that's also the beauty of having a slightly more narrow foot, is that you can still put on something, at least for me, still put on a Phantom GX2 that is on the wider side in the forefoot and still feel very, very comfortable. Am I lacking some stability and lockdown in the heel? Sure. But it still feels really good. I enjoy the boot. So these are just keep in mind that if you want that slightly more snug fit, these are absolutely perfect, in my book at least. And of course, as always, you can buy all of them and other boots in the link to Unisport right over there. We have a bunch of them. But did I miss any? Perfect boots for narrow, slim feet? Let me know as always in the comment section right down below. Of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel with the notifications on. And as always, I'll be signing off. Cheerio.